A couple of weeks ago, we heard this story about a Hawaiian family living on a farm in Oahu who spent 7 years reviving a barren piece of farmland using indigenous farming techniques. But when the pandemic hit, the Hawaiian economy crumbled, leaving the landowners in economic peril unless they could sell the land to developers.
I get a call from the landowner basically saying, hey, for these reasons, we're going to sell the property and we're going to sell it to these developers, and we're going to give you 12 weeks to move out.
COVID was so economically detrimental to so many people. And this is a family whose parents had purchased this place, and their parents' vision was to be able to enact some kind of dream for their children, and the way that the chips fell, like, this family has economic needs that this place can provide. And what is beautiful is that this place has the potential to provide for this family, to provide for our family, to provide for the community, right? And so it really is just a matter of putting ourselves in a position to acknowledge and harness the abundance of the universe so that everybody has what they need. And we have seen that in such an incredible way. Literally thousands of people have jumped onto the GoFundMe, have shared our story.
And the story of this farm is a pretty incredible one, because the work they've done and the lessons they've learned along the way can become a blueprint for future generations of farmers to show how a barren patch of soil can become a thriving, abundant space that can feed the local community and begin to restore balance to the ecosystem.
What we learned in the first year, and this is through the neighbors and the rest of the community, is that this place experienced 70 years of chemical ag. And so everything that we planted in the first year pretty much was unsuccessful. And so in the first year, we recognized that what we needed to do was invest in the soil, not withdraw from the soil. And so we sort of took a complete backwards approach to it, where we decided to focus on living practices. So we started up emuing every week, our underground cooking pit, because the emu produces biochar. And what we realized was the weekly making of 50 gallons of biochar added up really quickly. So we probably put about 6,000 to 10,000 gallons of char on this top area alone, right? And so there's zero waste. In fact, what we found was that if your lifestyle builds soil, even on a small scale, the regularness of the soil building at some point meant that you had healthy soils. Here, it took us about 6 years. And it was really backwards, because people would come here and be like, what are you farming? Not understanding
soil. We're farming dirt. We're farming microbes.
Before you can plant the food, you have to have the place for the food. And dirt isn't necessarily what plants need. They need topsoil. They need nutrients. They need microbes. They need a living system. When you have no topsoil, you have to think, well, how do I build up 100 years in 7 years? Which, I'll be honest, it ain't possible. But fortunately, nephew runs a landscape company, arborist. He has tons of biomass. So we have had hundreds and upon hundreds of truckloads of mulch dumped. Gallons and gallons of microbes that we sprayed on it, plus pigs, plus chickens, right? We've just fed and fed and fed and fed and fed our land. And I mean, the bananas are growing. We had a hog die, and it was a 500-pound hog. And overnight, it died at night, and by the time I checked in the morning, it was already swollen. So I couldn't eat it, so I buried it. The bananas are eating off of that, right? It's like, we literally, for the last 7 years, have just every turn fed our soil. Feed it biomass, feed it animal mass, feed it animal byproducts, feed it human byproducts. Emu, take the char, add the char, make microbes, spray microbes. Our farm is basically a unique modern trash compactor where we take outside trash from the world, things that have little value, and we upscale it and upcycle it into something that has incredible use. A lot of our building materials, our pig pens, are all built out of trash, construction trash, which is, right? You wanna know how we're successful? we went through your trash. We took out the things we could use, right? We applied it here. Then we built a model that helped other people identify high value trash and just bring it to us. I mean, rocks. We get guys, they just dropped off 3 huge semi-loads of rocks. But guess what? We're gonna use every single rock. You know, from day one, we've known the needs in the community, at least for our sake. What we needed is taro farmers, yeah? And so day one, our goal was to create more taro farmers. And so a farm school seems like the easiest way to do it. The challenge with operating a farm school in Hawaii is it's expensive, right? And then if you expect students to pay for going to school, then you pretty much limit yourself to not very many local kids. And if a local kid can afford to go to a farm school, why wouldn't he go to college, right? So how do we take sort of the concepts of woofing, which woofing works good, but not in our local community because there's no local kids that want to live in a tent. You know, why would you live in a tent in Hawaii when you could live on your mom's couch and your mom cooks for you? So we wanted to find a way where we could get the moms to support the kids to have a transition. Create a place where students could pay for the school with labor, right? Have a place that the kids could live at and that fed them. And the idea is a subsistence farm school, where first you learn how to grow what you eat and eat what you grow, right? And you learn how to build a place to live. You learn the basic necessities of starting a farm from scratch. And people get how important it is. So, you know.
I mean, and we're in one of the most perfect places in the world, right? We have rain every day. We have this incredible growing season. It's year round if you know what to do with it.
But we grow houses, right? This community has effectively turned thousands, 2,400 acres of ag land into less than 20 acres of farms, right? 10,000 homes in this community. And this is the truth. 10,000 homes, even if only 10% of the kids are at risk, it's hundreds of kids. What do these hundreds of kids do? How do they be productive? How do they not become part of the social service enterprise, right? It's because they're farmers, right? And if you think of it, the hard-headed kids that don't listen to nobody, that always are doing stuff by themselves, dude, you're pre-qualified to be a farmer. You know what I'm saying? Like you almost have to listen to nobody and be willing to fail on your own. That's kind of the demographics that we want to aim at. We want to aim for youth before they go to prison, before they get in trouble, before they get on the path of drugs. We want to show them that there is another path, and that path is simply growing food for your family, and that if you are a food producer in your family, you have value for your family. You have value for the community. Farming is a way to have value in having a relationship with the land, is a way to show that the space is being used for the highest purpose. And because it is, the Native people still have a place. So our long-term strategy is really to emphasize to the greater community how important it is to keep Native Hawaiians on land in Hawaii, doing Hawaiian things like farming taro and producing food, taking care of the environment, using that as a model to influence non-natives,
the world.
Right?
Yeah.
To say like, look, no matter where you go, support the indigenous people, practice and adopt those practices because they actually make the most sense for that place.
Unless we are serious about producing food in Hawaii to feed the people that live here, at some point, it might be some very difficult decisions that need to get made by the people who have access to food. How do you make that decision? You know, how do you choose who gets to eat and who doesn't get to eat? And I think about that sometimes, and it's like, this is why we need to grow farmers. This is why we need to open agriculture land in Hawaii. This is why we need these things, because I don't want to have to make that decision, you know? And we see food prices going up in Hawaii. I mean, at some point people are going to be priced out, not because they can't afford rent, but because they can't afford to feed their kids, you know? And if it's choosing between living in Hawaii and feeding your kid, you're going to go where you can feed your kid.
Yeah, and that's the most frustrating part, is we live in one of the richest environments for food production, but we've dismantled our agriculture mentality, yeah, purposefully, and so we have to rebuild it. I mean, the journey that we've been on with traditional poi making would almost be like going to Asia and teaching Asians how to eat rice. Yeah, and then because nobody's eating poi, we have to go through our own community and re-envision, reimagine, reproduce the demands for this product, because previously we started eating rice. And so after getting people to go back to their traditional diet, now it comes to open the lands. And so what we've been working on for over a decade, is just building the demand to value farmers. Now people value farmers, right? But so now we got to build on the farmers, right? And it's this process that it's totally okay that it takes time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the realization though is we have to all see that the road is going to bend. Yeah, and at that bend, we're going to be hungry. So to prevent that, what, are we just going to wait for the government that's already not doing their job? I say no. I say we as the people, this is our opportune time to come together to build all of the things that cannot be measured. Yeah?
This is my shirt.
How do you measure trust? How do you measure the ability to relate with your neighbors and your community? How do you build and measure love? These are things that are intangible, but without these things, it's hard to operate a community, and these are all the things that farmers need. Yeah, and in order to rebuild agriculture, we're gonna have to rebuild our ability to trust each other. We're gonna have to value helping someone with nothing in it for us, knowing that by helping that person at some point in the future, it may come back, but not doing it because we're doing it because we know the future needs it.
Well, the time is now too, because our farmers are older, and so it's like we need to access the ike, the knowledge that they have gained over their years, and download that to our younger generation, right? Like, we've got to access that while these farmers are still around, and so, and it's hard to pass your knowledge down to people that aren't doing it, right? Like, there's no context. You just don't, like, you tell me you're a mechanic, tell me everything you know. Well, have you ever worked on a car? No. Well, there's no point, so it's a really critical key moment right now.
We've been very fortunate though. The taro has been a part of us for our entire life. I've been farming taro since I was 2, and has really been there for me during some of the tougher moments in my life, and has been there definitely in the best moments. At all the parties, most of the time I made the poi. Like, we've realized if we don't take care of the seed stock, probably nobody is. Probably the next generation is going to lose that seed stock. And we went from 400 varieties 200 years ago to 80 varieties. And are we going to be the guys that they blame in 2 generations? Oh, bro, I only get 40 because these stupid uncles 2 generations ago never do them. And when we look at, the legacy of what we're really passing on, we have the opportunity to be like the forefathers of the reason that the next generation even has it. Yeah, and that puts a lot of stress on me personally to know, like, if we don't do it, we'll lose. And it's immediate. Because taro, you can't store the genetics in some seed bank. The genetics are stored living. Which is kind of like the Hawaiian people. You can't put the seed on cryogenic. You have to actually have these guys produce kids and keep going and living their lifestyle, which is what the freaking taro needs, and they need it together.
This is the 3rd baby that was born in the bathroom. He didn't really believe me, but...
Where's that helping us?
But, yeah.
He didn't want to mulch or feed the pigs.
Oh, man. Oh, is that why he's crying?
Look, if you're here, that means you're not mulching or feeding the pigs either. So I think you and Pua need to go back and do some mulching and pig feeding. Yep, get to it.
Go.
I'm getting itchy.
That's because you're not working hard enough. It's number 6, farm child. Number 3, born in the bathroom.
You know that movie Monsters, Inc.? They make the energy from screaming kids. we followed that pattern and we do the same thing. Huh. We're making a lot of energy right now if you can't tell with the background music. So as of this moment, we're about $130,000 shy. With all of our fundraising, with everything that has happened, we are that close, right? If you had told me 14 weeks ago, Daniel, you have to raise $140,000 to save this farm, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know how we're gonna do it, right? Like, it's been ridiculous how much we've raised in this short amount of time. So my confidence at this point is a lot different than my confidence then. I believe that, in fact, I know that we're gonna do it. I don't know how we're gonna raise the last little bit, but I know that, I don't wanna say too big to fail, but we have enough support on this dream that has become the dream of others, and that people have actually see what we see. And where earlier it was very cloudy and people couldn't see it, now the regular average human from our community recognizes that their $20 is actually going towards something meaningful. And those $20 and $10 and $5 have actually grown into a beast. And with that beast, we are battling, you know, the forces of nature and society to secure this land, get this farm school going, start producing farmers. Right? And everything that you guys will show on this video, we've done 100% of that without owning the land. So, you know, we're sitting under a structure that we built, not owning the land. What will happen when the land is secure is that the wheels are coming off the wagon. We are gonna freaking upgrade it, and we're gonna just scramble down this path at full speed. I mean, we have so much, we already had so much support. You know, the builders that have been wanting to come and support, they're gonna come in. We're gonna build 3 huge traditional halles on the hillside, which is gonna be the home for the students. The students are gonna come out of their grass shack every day and look at this view from Kailua, the Mokuluas, all the way to Kualoa, and just realize that I don't need a home to feel incredible about where I live, and to be motivated to produce food, also to create for themselves their own path. The idea is that this is just the doorway into that lifestyle of agriculture, that you are gonna leave here, right? This is the goal. The goal is we're not gonna give certificates. What's gonna happen is you're gonna get qualified on how to use agriculture tools, and instead of a certificate, you're gonna get the tool. And then when you leave here, you should have all of your basic farm tours. You're gonna be chainsaw certified with your own chainsaw, weed eater certified with your weed eater. And when you leave here, you will leave with all the equipment necessary for you to either become a productive farmer on someone else's farm, or you have the basic ingredients to bake your own farm.
Oh, you got one.
Yeah, it's very hard to catch babies.
Hey guys, my name is Daniel Anthony. That's DANIELANTHONY.
I let it get.
Normally that's what they want you to do. Say your name and spell it. No.
Daniel Anthony, you can spell.
Okay.
But just with also the organization
Okay.
name too.
Hi guys, I'm Daniel Anthony. This is my wife.
I'm Alohi Aina.
Our organization is Hui Aloha Aina Momona. What's your name, boy?
Really?
And that's Vili.
Dad, I'm done filling a whole wheelbarrow.
Not pulling weeds, he's feeding pigs. And you can learn more about us at ainamomona.org. You can also hit the link above to go to our fundraiser on Instagram. You can check us out at @Mana'ai on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I'm at Vibe with Uncle on TikTok.